We're working on this Cordoba from the 1970s. I like to refer to what we're doing to this automobile as a resto mod. The excitement of impossible recoveries, such as trucks hanging on cliffs, jeeps sucked up by sand, and machinery rescued from the edge, has always been demonstrated by Matt's off-road recovery. People aren't concerned about it as a car anymore. It's Matt. We only save rental automobiles, overlanders, and side-by-side renters in the southwestern region of Utah, northern Arizona, and Nevada. There came a time when everything appeared to shift. There was something slow about the updates, like the quiet before a storm. The whispers that started to spread and the long period of silence that followed were ominous and foreboding. When the storm finally arrived, the brave recoveries and happy rescues that had looked so simple took on a different tone than what the spectators had initially experienced. This is about what happened to Matt, not just a YouTube channel anymore. Come learn more about what some people may have heard in passing and how it nearly destroyed his career and program. Matt Witzel, who is now more well known thanks to his channel, Matt's Off-Road Recovery, established his reputation by combining timing, technique, and location. He lived and worked in southern Utah long before YouTube, when cars were frequently left stranded by steep trails, scorching desert temperatures, and rough terrain. He obtained years of expertise handling cars in situations where a basic tow truck simply wasn't up to par while working for Winder Towing, a business affiliated with AAA. Established in Hurricane, Utah decades prior, Winder Towing had established a reputation throughout the whole region. Locals frequently depended on the company because it had an AA membership in the area, particularly when standard roadside assistance was not feasible. In addition to standard roadside work, Matt's experience included flat tires, locked doors, and cars that broke down on highways. This also covered the hazardous recoveries in the adjacent desert and in the sand, slick rock, and steep terrain of Zion National Park. The very high frequency of off-road incidents in that region of Utah was what made his work unique. Both residents and visitors forced trucks, jeeps, and leisure vehicles into unprepared terrain. Due to the infrequent operation of larger towing companies or governmental resources in such isolated locations, Winder Towing frequently became the only viable option. Matt gradually started recording these recoveries after realizing the possibility they held. Vehicles teetering on rock shelves, trucks buried up to their axles in sand, and jeeps toppled into arroyos. There was more drama in each case than a mere tow from a city street. He was also making notes. He was on his way to starting his YouTube channel, thanks to these insights and a keen sense of business. He was correct. It was sure to be popular. After assembling a cast and starting the YouTube channel, Matt's Off-Road Recovery was formally launched in 2019. It provided spectators with a glimpse into the dramatic recovery in the Utah desert, something they couldn't find anyplace else. The eye-catching images and the problem-solving drew them in right away. The rescues were authentic, in contrast to contrived stuff. The stranded cars were real, the circumstances were frequently hazardous, and the rescues necessitated careful driving, winches, recovery ropes, and ingenuity. The channel grew rapidly by combining a number of factors. The fact that Matt wasn't acting initially drew in viewers. He was recording his actual work. In contrast to typical tow jobs in cities, the Utah desert provided untamed and breathtaking views. They also had the opportunity to witness the gradual development of challenging recoveries. Regular appearances by family members and local crew members like Lizzie and Hefe gave the videos a distinct flair. The channel quickly acquired popularity, initially among off-road aficionados and later among a larger YouTube audience interested in adventure, rescue, and mechanical work-related video. Videos frequently started with a stranded driver calling, then Matt evaluating the situation. The story then turned to the crew's trek through the wilderness, where they occasionally needed specialist gear to even get to the car. Whether the recovery would be successful without more harm, or in certain situations, whether it could be done at all, was the main source of tension. Both Matt's skill and the entertainment value of his work were demonstrated by the early recovery. He wasn't just taking cars out. He frequently came up with solutions on the fly. Unconventional techniques, deliberate risks, and homemade rigs distinguish the show from most other types of material. By 2020, the channel had hundreds of thousands of viewers per video and was frequently publishing episodes. Subscriptions grew steadily, surpassing 1 million in a few years. He went beyond recovery as the channel gained prominence. Sales of merchandise, such as branded hats and shirts, started. Also included in the material were specially designed recovery gear. The Morvar, a modified Corvair intended for off-road recovery work, was one of the most noteworthy constructions. Displaying distinctive builds offered new content that went beyond plain tows and strengthened the channel's brand. The YouTube channel's success generated a second source of revenue in addition to Winder Towing's AAA operations. Traditional towing work started to be supplemented by sponsorships, products, and advertising revenue. By the end of 2020, Matt's Off-Road Recovery had grown from a job description to a well-known brand with devoted followers all around the world. Naturally, no show would be complete without a supporting cast, and the recurring team members were a major factor in the channel's popularity. A family friend who eventually became a frequent co-host, Lizzie contributed both technical expertise and a likable personality to the show. He became interested in both video creation and recovery work as a nephew. Later, Tucker and Skier joined, bringing their mechanical expertise and recovery abilities to the table. As time went on, viewers began to identify the channel with this changing group of characters in addition to Matt. Their relationship, which could be amusing when appropriate or serious when necessary, contributed to the recovery's technical and entertainment aspects. Matt's Off-Road Recovery had become a distinguished specialty channel by 2021. It had a loyal fanbase, a distinct identity, and consistent uploads. However, problems with Winder Towing's operations were emerging behind the scenes. The YouTube audience was initially not visibly disturbed. Recoveries were filmed, videos kept coming, and goods kept growing. However, strain had subtly become apparent. Initial issues included sporadic upload pauses, mysterious online comments, and then escalating rumors of billing and AAA contract issues. A legal storm was about to hit the channel's foundation, casting the first significant shadow over the show's development and potentially leading to its demise. The case of insurance fraud that caused a stir. Matt's Off-Road Recovery was well known in the YouTube automotive community by the end of 2020. The brand was expanding, the recoveries were spectacular, and Matt Wetzel's standing as a talented problem solver was now well established. Nobody noticed that his winter towing business, which was the business part of his organization, was being investigated. Investigators had claimed that Winder Towing had filed many claims with AAA insurance between January 2019 and August 2020, including substantial misrepresentations. Simply put, neither the vehicles nor the services rendered were appropriately represented in the claims. A Polaris RZR side-by-side being towed from a state park was one instance of an off-road vehicle deception, according to court filings and media accounts. However, recreational off-road vehicles were not covered by AAA policy. The claims filed as if the tow had involved a typical car that was covered by membership. There have been allegations of using someone else's AAA membership for services for which they were not truly qualified. Investigators claimed that in other instances, the claims claimed that cars were towed, but in fact, other services like material delivery or roadside assistance were rendered that were not covered by the policy. The allegations state that a small number of claims were submitted for circumstances in which no car was actually transported. When the prosecutors finished presenting their evidence, they had created a narrative that inflated or misrepresented what was actually done, claiming that Winder Towing had built an AAA for services that were outside the scope of coverage. The inquiry was headed by the Utah Insurance Fraud Division, which examined dozens of Winder Towing-related claims. According to investigators, they discovered a pattern of inconsistent billing. A recorded phone conversation between Matt Wetzel and AAA representatives provided one important piece of evidence. He acknowledged responsibility for submitting the claims during the conversation, although he denied having the intent to defraud. The state used his admission that the front-end assertions were incorrect. The pattern was determined by investigators to be significant. Rather, they thought Winder Towing had purposefully filed false claims in order to obtain reimbursements that were not permitted by the provisions of the policy. Charges were formally filed in December 2021. The proprietor of Winder Towing, Matt Wetzel, was charged in Utah State Court with one second-degree felony offense of insurance fraud. There were severe possible repercussions for the offense. In Utah, a second-degree felony carries a maximum sentence of 1 to 15 years in jail, as well as hefty fines. His ability to work as a towing contractor and his commercial relationships, especially with AAA, would have been irreparably harmed by the conviction. The allegation was a severe blow to his public image and legal standing for a man who had established his reputation on expertise, trust, and recovery. Both mainstream Utah media and automobile media swiftly reported on the charge. The story was presented in strong terms in the headlines. For fraud, a well-known YouTuber was facing jail time. The channel's followers responded right away. The accusations ran counter to Matt's reputation as a direct, witty rescuer. Online discussion boards erupted in conjecture. Others are certain that Winder Towing had taken advantage of AAA for financial gain, while others think the costs were inflated technicalities. The channel kept uploading for months, but the impending litigation was a hindrance. With every new video, comments were left inquiring about the legal issues. He insisted that the work done was legal through his lawyer and subsequent public remarks. He denied any intention to deceive, although he acknowledged that some claims were filed wrongly. His defense framed the problem as one of technical or administrative infractions rather than criminal dishonesty. He maintained that the services were legitimate and provided to stranded drivers. He asserted that even when they did not fit within the exact parameters of the policy, certain claims were either filed under memberships or delayed in order to guarantee payment. Instead of intentional deception, his lawyer described the case as involving billing errors. The evidence gathered by the Insurance Fraud Division was sufficient to go to court in spite of these arguments. He agreed to a plea agreement in March 2022. He admitted to lying to AAA and entered a plea of no contest. By accepting judgment and sentencing as though guilty, he did not formally plead guilt. This prevented him from publicly confessing intent while avoiding the dangers of a trial. Because a criminal accusation was dropped, he was spared jail time. The court subsequently changed his sentence to 18 months of probation, which included paying $15,382 to the insurance company, $1,745 in fees and costs to Utah's Insurance Fraud Division, and adhering to all probationary requirements, including not committing any more violations. Compared to the harshest punishments conceivable, the sentencing was a relief. As long as he complied with the requirements, probation allowed him to at least keep running his company in channel. He escaped going to jail, but the outcome put a permanent imprint on his record. Additionally, the imminent legal threat was eliminated. For his supporters, the verdict not only proved that there had been errors, but it also showed that probation was deemed an appropriate punishment by the courts. It was seen as a second chance by supporters. Critics contended that leniency had worked in his favor. Matt's off-road recuperation proceeded after the sentencing. Matt and his team implicitly addressed the topic in public remarks and Q&A sessions, but the channel did not publish a formal expose on the case. He returned attention to the subject matter, emphasized lessons learned, and admitted his mistakes. Uploads didn't change. The channel was loaded with team content, vehicle building, and recoveries, which diverted viewers' focus from the court decision to the desert rescues. The story had mostly disappeared from the news by the middle of 2022. The fraud case was not a current scandal, but rather background information for viewers who found the station after the events. Although he was able to weather the storm, it left scars that would not go away. Personnel changes, corporate adjustments, and the channel's aftermath. Matt Wetzel was able to return to his life in southern Utah and escape going to jail thanks to the court decision. Although the case itself was over, its impact on his YouTube channel and his towing business, Winder Towing, reached a new stage. In the years after probation, there was a mix of staff change, adjustment, and continuity. He did not shy away from the limelight in spite of the case's gravity. Rather, the YouTube channel continued consistently, uploads resumed, displaying the same kinds of recoveries that had established the brand. The mainstays of the videos continued to be vehicles hanging on slopes, stranded jeeps, RVs in sand, and more. The supporters' reaction was still powerful. While new subscribers joined without knowing the background of the case, those who had followed the legal developments frequently posted encouraging remarks. The number of subscribers had surpassed 2 million by 2023, while the number of video views frequently surpassed 1 million. Instead of confronting the case head-on, Matt and his team tended to let their content take precedence over the history. During sporadic Q&A sessions, he made indirect acknowledgments by acknowledging his errors without repeating specifics. The partnership between Winder Towing and AAA had been at the heart of the case. Although there are little official records of that partnership following the case, there is evidence that ties with AAA either stopped or were drastically cut. The fact that his business was no longer reliant on the insurance network for funding was evident. Rather, the main economic concept was the YouTube channel itself. Consistent revenue was generated through sponsorships, retail sales, advertising, and fan support. He made sure that his livelihood was independent of insurance claims by moving away from dependency on towing contracts and toward content-driven revenue. This shift represented a significant shift from what started out as a YouTube video of a towing firm to a YouTube channel that kept a towing company as part of its brand identification. As the channel continued, viewers became aware that not all of their recognizable faces were still visible. A number of important crew members left during 2022 and 2023, which fueled rumors of turmoil behind the scenes. Skier declared his intention to leave the channel in October 2022. His profession was welding, and he decided to relocate to Texas in order to work in the oil field sector. There was little issue around his official confirmation of his resignation, but since Skier was already well known to fans, his absence created a clear void in the videos. Tucker also ceased to feature on the station by February 2023. Fans started asking questions right away, wondering if he had been dismissed or left on poor terms. Matt responded by explaining that Tucker had decided to look for freelance work. The explanation was consistent even though the facts were still limited. He desired autonomy and a different line of employment. Hefe, Matt's nephew, also started to appear less frequently on the channel. Instead of leaving abruptly, he moved on to other endeavors, such as his own artistic endeavors. Instead of confrontation, this change reflected a natural division of objectives. Fans continued to conjecture, however, as to why he was not present. Lizzie, one of the most dependable and noticeable characters in the videos, persisted in making frequent appearances. Even though not every team member quit, she remained crucial because of her technical proficiency, positive outlook, and rapport with Matt. Skier, Tucker, and Hefe's exits were the biggest changes to the well-known roster, though other supporting crew members came and went as needed. Online speculation resulted from the departure pattern. Some supporters said that tension was caused by the fraud case's aftermath, or that working circumstances were challenging. Others believed that Matt had fired people or that they were driven away by unspoken conflicts. But there was no proof to support these views. A career change, freelancing, or new projects were the public justifications in each instance, and they were all believable and consistent. Small businesses and YouTube operations frequently experience crew turnover, and those who departed did not publicly accuse Matt of misconduct. The channel typically avoided providing in-depth explanations, which contributed to the persistence of the rumors. Matt kept a strong separation between his personal and business affairs by concentrating on recoveries rather than personal issues. Although Matt's public image was damaged by the insurance fraud case, his ongoing output and audience loyalty more than made up for it in the long run. His supporters saw him as someone who had been punished, made amends, and moved on. The case was no longer widely covered by 2023. Even such stories are still available online. The focus of the fan community has changed from previous controversies to current content. His probation had ended, and his legal issues had been settled by 2024. He continued to concentrate on developing his brand and producing content. With millions of views per month, the channel's statistics demonstrated consistent growth. strong sales of products, and continuous sponsorships. The videos are still well liked, even though the team has settled around a smaller core. The recoveries themselves still provide enough material for the show to continue because they are risky, dramatic, and exclusive to Utah's desert. Matt's off-road comeback is still going strong as of 2025. Regularly released videos showcase the same combination of engineering, expertise, and desert scenery. Matt continues to be the public face of the operation, leading recoveries and giving on-camera presentations. He no longer faces the legal difficulties of the past, they are now part of his past. The original fans still discuss the deaths of Skier, Tucker, and Hefe, while Lizzie and other characters continue the brand alongside Matt. With millions of admirers, what started out as a modest Utah towing company with YouTube videos has grown into a global content brand. How do you feel about Matt's position about his previous scandal? Tell us in the comments section below. Thank you for viewing. Click play on the video that is currently playing on your screen to see more thrilling videos. In order to receive notifications whenever a new video is released, remember to hit the bell, like, and subscribe.